we have been having church up in here. We got church up in here. Amen. Giving all praise to God. Our pastor, Marvin Jones.
Amen.
Our assistant pastor, Mr. Mike O'Neill.
Amen.
And that's Mr. Thomas over there. Thomas Lambert. And then to Maritza Neal.
Amen.
And then to each of you.
Amen.
I deferred to say anything about Papa Willie because I was going to be up now, but I'm going to share something with you about Papa Willie. Papa Willie came up to me after I preached. He says, "Man, I didn't know you was a minister." I said, "Me either, until God called me."
That's all right,
But he shared so much with me after that. After I preached the first sermon, he came up and he was literally in tears. He said, "You came out the Bible." I said, "Well, praise God. That's the only way I'm going to come. It's out of the Bible." He said, "But you came, you gave us the word." And he says, "I can't wait till you preach again." And I told him at that time it would be the second week in October. And he said, "I can't wait." And I hadn't seen him for a couple of weeks to talk to him, to let him know that I was going to be speaking again. But I'm sure he's hearing me now.
Amen.
I'm sure he's hearing me now. Today's message is going to be coming from Mark chapter 5, verse 25 to 34. And we have read it in a responsive reading. I'll read it again for you. It reads, "And a certain woman which had an issue of blood 12 years, and has suffered many things of many physicians, and has spent all that she had, and was nothing better, but rather grew worse. When she had heard of Jesus, came into the press behind, and touched his garment. For she said, If I may touch but his clothes, I shall be whole. And straightway the fountain of her blood was dried up, and she felt in her body that she was healed of that plague.
Amen.
And Jesus, immediately knowing in himself that virtue had gone out of him, turned him about in the press and said, Who touched my clothes? And his disciples said unto him, Thou seest the multitude thronging thee, and sayest thou, Who touched me? And he looked around about to see her that had done this thing. But the woman, fearing and trembling, knowing what was done in her, came and fell down before him, and told him all the truth. And he said unto her, Daughter, thy faith had made thee whole. Go in peace, and behold thy plague. You may be seated. Let us pray. God our Father, creator of all things, true source of light and wisdom, origin of all that is. Thank you for calling me to faith, for planting your word in my heart, and for delivering me from my sins. Thank you for calling me to your service, for giving me the ability to teach your word and share this good news with others. Be ever gracious to me. Let a ray of your light penetrate the darkness of my understanding. Give me confidence in the power of your gospel. Grant me clarity and understanding and proclaim the truths of your word. And edify your church through this work. In the mighty name of Jesus we pray. Amen.
Amen.
I'll show you how God works. I have two versions of this same sermon. One short, one small. We're going to do the short version. See, God knows what he's doing. He wants the word to go forth.
Yes, he does.
But he's a prepared God. He keeps you prepared
That's right.
for what he needs you to do.
That's right.
Has anyone really has ever been really, really sick? You know, I mean, so sick till you don't know if you're going to make it.
Yes.
Well, this woman with this issue of blood had this problem for 12 years. Now, key word here is issue. That's the word, issue. Because we all have issues.
Yeah.
This woman just had an issue of blood. Now, some of us have big issues. Some of us have small issues.
Yeah.
But it can be certain that we all have issues.
Yes.
Some of us have come to realize that we do have issues, while others of us are still trying to figure out what is wrong with everyone else in this world.
Come on now, fix it.
There are physical, spiritual, emotional, financial, and even relational issues.
Right.
But there is certain, but here, this woman had a certain issue. Now, this is not your normal, ignorable issue.
Come on now.
Sometimes we can have issues that are so insignificant that if we don't bother them, they won't bother us. When I was a teenager,
Have mercy, Lord.
teenage bumps, now they call them acne, used to bother me.
Huh.
But most of the time, I just ignored them. And so this was not that type of issue that you could just ignore, because dealing with blood was tedious, time-consuming, and it restricted her travel, and she was in no way able to live life to the fullest. She was limited by this nasty issue that she was forced to bear, and this issue had been with her for 12 years.
Yeah.
When a person deals with something this long, they begin to feel that it's easier to live with it rather than to continue to search, spend more money on trying to take care of it.
Right.
Now Luke says this story begins with Jesus, the great physician.
Hallelujah.
He was on his way to make an emergency house call.
Come on.
There was a little girl who was in a grave state, and her father implored Jesus to come.
Come on, fix it. Right.
Now we're told that a large crowd of the curious followed Jesus. Some were hoping he would succeed, and others hoping he would fail.
Yes. Yes.
In this storm was one woman
Yeah.
who was there for quite a different reason.
Come on now.
We're told that for 12 years she had been suffering from this bleeding
All
hemorrhage.
right. All right.
Some modern scholars have theorized that this was a bleeding cancer. And if this were the case, then of course she was beyond medical help.
Yeah.
Matthew, Mark tells us that she had already been to all the doctors and had only gotten worse.
Yeah.
And besides that, the doctors had taken all her money. Now Luke was a physician, and he tells the story as well.
Come on.
But he could not bring himself to tell the side of the story that says that she spent all her money with a string of physicians, since he was a physician.
Right.
So now, how could this woman get the attention of Jesus? Because that's what she really wanted. Her problem was a very personal nature, and she did not want to discuss publicly.
Come on.
According to the Levitic law, a woman who was bleeding was considered unclean,
Yes.
and under law could not touch no one.
That's scripture.
And in those days, there were many ancient taboos. The story goes on to say that this woman did not want to go to the disciples to see Jesus. In other words, she wanted the doctor and not the nurse.
Come on.
So she came up with a plan.
Go ahead.
Having heard the stories of Jesus' power, she thought, even if I touch the hem of his garment,
Yes.
I will be healed.
Yes.
We smile at that and say, how innocent and how naive. But this woman reached out from the crowd and touched the garment of Jesus.
That's right.
Right.
And the Bible says, immediately,
Yeah.
not a little later,
Yeah.
right away,
Yeah.
Yes.
Jesus stopped, bolted upright, and asked, who touched me?
Yeah.
Now the disciples were like, what do you mean? Was this kind of rhetorical question, who touched you? Why, Master, look around. Everyone is touching you. For what reason are you asking? But Jesus replied with one of the most mysterious lines in the Bible. He said, I felt power flow from him.
Yes.
Come on.
Yes.
Now what exactly happened in that moment? Did this woman drain his battery?
Bless his name.
It sounds as though he's almost describing a power surge.
Come on.
I felt power flow from him.
Come on.
Yes. Yes. Hallelujah.
whatever happened, the important matter, of course, is that in the midst of the crowd, Jesus felt the touch of a
Yes, he
single person. One person.
Glory
There were
to God.
lots of
Glory
people
to
around.
God. Bless your name.
What we should not, well, what we should never think of as in the enormity of all that we go through in this world, God cannot care. God still can care about our concerns. And he doesn't say, what about little old me? Because you little old me, he's ready to take care of you too. Now, daughter was said Jesus, I might add pathetically that this is the only time the word daughter is mentioned in the Bible. He said, daughter, your faith has made you well.
Yes, he did.
And we're told that the woman was immediately healed. The desperation of her faith thus became the channel that led to her healing.
Right.
So what the story is saying is that the first there's a physical touch. There are two touches. There's a physical touch and there's a spiritual touch.
Come on now. Hey. Come on.
I'm so glad
Bless God.
that I'm a child of the King.
Hey. Come on now.
Because Jesus is a shelter
Yes,
in
he
the
is.
time of storms.
Come on.
I heard somebody say, Jesus
Yeah.
cleansed me and made me whole.
Yeah. Yes, Lord.
Jesus
Yes, Lord.
filled my cup so much that it's running over.
Yes.
Jesus will make a way somehow. Whatever the problem, whatever the need, Jesus will make a way.
Yes, Lord. Yes, Lord.
Jesus leads me, picked me up, he turned me around, he set my feet
Yes,
on
Lord.
solid
Yes,
ground.
He did.
Jesus, his name is wonderful. Jesus, one day he heard my cry. Jesus, how excellent is his name.
Yes, Lord.
Jesus,
Yes,
you can
Lord.
cast all your cares on me.
Yes.
I must tell Jesus
Yes, Lord.
that I need thee every hour.
Yes,
It was his grace and his mercy that brought me through. I'm so glad I got a song to sing this morning, but I decided to follow Jesus.
Yes.
I was sinking deep in sin one day, but the master of the ocean, he reached down because he heard my cry. And from the water, he lifted me. Now safe. Hallelujah. Jesus, King of Kings, Lord of Lords, Alpha and Omega, the beginning and the end, Prince of Peace, Lord God Almighty. You are to worship a God like that. You cannot miss with the things that He can do for you. You ought to just come to Him and say, Jesus, I just stretch my hands to you.